Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching us from home this morning, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Mel Wilkinson, your associate this morning, and I'm happy to welcome our minister, Reverend Ian Riddell, to join us this morning. And please, before we begin, could you silence your cell phones and any other accoutrements that you have with us this morning. Here, as we do each week, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded lands of the Agua Caliente Band of the Cahuilla people. We commit to grow in our understanding and relationship with this land and with the people who inhabited it and nurtured it before our arrival. In this congregation, we strive to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person. You are welcome no matter your age or your size, whether you are rich or poor, or if you have a different sexual orientation or gender identity than the person sitting next to you. We welcome people of all races, religions, and cultures. We welcome all of those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world. Our goal here is to build a community centered in justice, in compassion, and in love. We're glad you're here with us this morning. We're very grateful for your presence. We welcome you all, and we're glad you're here with us this morning. At this time, as you can tell, coffee time is a really big thing around here. We do about 90% of the church business. We make social commitments for the week, and we figure out who's going to lunch with whom. So we want to have a really cohesive coffee hour. So if you leave your name badge on, so we can get to know you better by your name, because it's always easier just to look at you and say, "Hi, how are you doing, Mel?" And there we go. So there's a new basket. I wanted to tell you about the new basket on the end of the goodie table. You can drop your name tags there. You don't have to come back into the church. Yay. So we can do that. So we'll know who we are. That's a really good thing. As you probably figured out, there's more to the congregation than simply Sunday morning services. There's more information about us, about the programming that takes place for your viewing pleasure from home on a weekly basis, the calendar, the minister schedule, and the monthly meetings of committees. Look us up at uucod.org or email the office at admin.uucod.org. And now, please join me as Reverend Ian, I ring the Tibetan bowl, and we listen to the sweet sounds of Malcolm Swan as he plays Nocturne in C major by Edvard Grieg as the music for centering.
Good morning, everybody. I am the Reverend Ian Riddell. I have the delight and honor of serving this congregation, even as I'm sitting down. I just want to make sure my microphone is on. A little closer, okay. I don't think that's the issue. But I wanted to let you know that I had an unfortunate encounter with a little bit of pavement and a little bit of sand on Thursday afternoon and sprained my foot. So I have been trying to stay off it, so I'm going to do all of my parts of today's service from here, sitting down. Hopefully you can hear me, and I am doing okay, and I'm getting better, but I want to take care of my foot, and my husband insisted that I sit. So I'm sitting. I also want to let you know that we had originally scheduled a session after the service, sort of conversation about vision and mission, and we're going to put that off until early in the new year. So I'm glad to have all of you here, and I'm doing okay. I'm just going to sit down for today. I want to start our service with these words from Atina O'Danner from her book Incantations for Rest. Realize that we were taught to fear the dark. Consider the seed that splits and unfurls unseen within the earth. Consider the inside of the egg. Consider the place where the Big Bang exploded, unknown and generative. Darkness is unpredictable, limitless possibility. We are in the habit of learning to fear our potential, but imagine embracing rest and dreams. We learned early to believe in the whiteness of certain magic and light, and the blackness of certain arts and hearts. Confronted with the sky and its stars, I must reject this entire premise. Remind me, siblings, to unlearn these bad habits and accept the gifts I've been given. Darkness is free and abundant. There is joy in unfurling from the shadows we were made in. We need only close our eyes to go home. Friends, with this call to loving the darkness in our hearts, I invite you to join. We'll stay seated for this one. Join in singing our opening hymn today, Dark of Winter. Malcolm and I are going to do the first verse together on our own, and then I'll invite you to sing the first and second verses with me. So, Dark of Winter.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profound.
you'll join me in the chalice lighting this morning. But it's written by Francis Coziar, and please join me. May we light this chalice this morning
To remind us of the power and beauty of the balance and contrast. It is darkness that can make the flame of a single candle so powerful, and light that deepens those shadows in turn. The chalice flame.
the chalice flame. There you go. Chalice flame is a meeting point, the union of the refuge, safety, and incredible beauty of darkness, and the warmth, the assurance, and the joy of light. May this act of lighting our chalice this morning remind us that we are stronger together in all the complexities and the disagreements of a relationship, because we are different and because we are one. I've asked Jane Zahn this morning to come and light the biopot candles. And if you'll join me. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey together towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. Thank you, Jane. The reading this morning is The Creation of Darkness. From Darkness Divine, A Loving Challenge to My Faith by Reverend Kristen Harper. In the beginning there was darkness, a blackness that covered all, comprising the building blocks of creation, the nutrients and nurturing needed to birth the world. This dark womb pushed out the light that released the heavens and cradled planets and stars adorning the universe. It formed the darkened earth from which all life emerged, and to which all life returns when our bodies take their final breath. It is the same darkness that shelters us from an unrelenting sun, that calls animals to a safe hibernation, that protects the germination of seed and bulb. Darkness signals an end to the hectic chaos of our days. It lulls us to sleep and revitalization so that we can face the next challenge. There is peace in the darkness and mystery and the unknown. And if we can rest in its grace, cease fighting to control it, we just might see in it the face of God. And now for the good works of this church, would the ushers come forward and pass the bowls as we listen to Malcolm play Cartaloom, composed by Gabriela Faré.
you all for your generosity today and all the year round for the support of the work of this beloved and nourishing community for all of us. This is what has been shared with us, but I know that there are joys that are in your hearts, there are sorrows in your minds and your spirit, and we pause now for a moment in this place of safety, this place of hope, this place of consideration and connection, this place of love, to rest for a moment in the quiet of this place, surrounded by the love of these people, of this community, and the love that is deeper and broader and more complex and more embracing than we can ever know. Our world is a messy, chaotic, painful place these days, as it is all days. There is violence in this world. There is fear, there is harm, there is cruelty, and there is hurt. Those are easy to see when we look for them. There is also kindness, support, connection, possibility, hope in this world. Sometimes a little harder to see, but always still there. In the face of violence and war, we pray for peace. We pray for justice. We pray for safety for all peoples. In the face of cruelty, we pray for kindness in our hearts, in our communities, in our world around. We pray that we each, in every moment, can make the choice of love when we encounter the stranger. We pray that we can make the choice of kindness when we encounter anger. And when our own anger is large, when our own pain is large, we pray for others to care for us, to hold us, to hear us, to see us, to know the reality of our lives. With all this complexity, all of this messiness, we pause here for a time of quiet, resting in the loving kindness in this space and in our shared hearts. We pause in the embrace of that love. May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know love. Friends, will you join your voices and your hearts together as we sing Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor.
Of compassion,
When I was 9 years old, the church choir I sang in went to England for 3 weeks to tour around the country and sing in famous churches. The chapel at Windsor Castle, York Minster, Ely, Coventry Cathedral. It was a wonderful experience to sing in these beautiful places with such deep history. What I remember most, though, are the 2 days we sang evensong services at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Now, St. Paul's is one of the largest churches in the world, and the church I grew up in was modeled on St. Paul's. And to be in that massive place, the contours and shapes of my familiar cathedral exploded to massive size, was really kind of awe-inspiring. St. Paul's is large enough that if you play a sudden loud chord on the organ, you can actually hear the sound physically moving up and down the nave of the cathedral several times before it wears out. Now, the challenges for those who were singing services at the cathedral was that the cathedral is also a huge tourist attraction and is open to thousands of visitors every day, all day. There is no quiet time in the day when you can get in a rehearsal. So rehearsals happened at night, after the tourists had been banished and the doors locked. The doors locked, and terrifyingly, gloriously, magnificently, all of the lights in the building, except those right where the choir was singing, turned off. The glorious, light-filled, people-filled space became a void. Darkness that was tangible. Darkness in which you could hear the movement of every noise you and the choir and the organ made. It wasn't just absence of light, it was a holy, powerful thing in and of itself. And to sing into and for that darkness was a great honor, it turned out. The darkness changed the space. It made it more intimate and more vast at the same time. It invited us to hear ourselves differently as we experienced our voices coming back to us from the darkness. It took us out of time in a way, taking a space that was already old to my 9-year-old perceptions and made it timeless, ancient, primordial even. It wasn't frightening, but it was daunting and called forth awe and humility both. Darkness is so much more than the absence of light. It isn't just the fact that there are things we can't see or do without the light. It offers a different way of being, of perceiving and understanding. Poet Wendell Berry wrote, "To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight and find that the dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings." And here we are again. The wheel of the year has turned, and we are at the darkest time of our cycle of days. Now, there is, of course, a scientific, astronomical reason for this. The winter solstice occurs at the moment that one of the Earth's poles reaches its furthest tilt away from the sun. In the northern hemisphere, this occurs in December, this year, at 1:21 a.m. yesterday. It is the time when the sun rises lower in the sky than on any other day, and it's the day of maximum darkness and minimum light. It is a moment of turning. The Reverend Barbara Wells Tenhove took the scientific explanation of the solstice and retold it this way, giving it what she calls a bit of a spiritual slant. These are her words. "The dark time has come. The earth in her great dance around the sun has come inevitably to the solstice, the time of extremes, of distance, of darkness and light. In our hemisphere, we experience this time as one of cold darkness, of shortening days and lengthening nights. The earth is tipping, from our perspective, further and further away from the sun. We wait. But the moment when the darkness is greatest is not entirely predictable. The spinning dance of the earth continues, but for one brief instant, When the axis of the Earth's rotation crosses the line through the center of our orbit around the sun, the tipping stops, and for a moment, we seem to pause suspended in space, pulsing with potential movement and ongoing life. Then, like a child's top that almost fell over, we are saved by the spin and lifted up again towards the light. Human beings have been making meaning of the solstice for millennia. Before the advent of clocks and scientifically derived calendars, humans told time, the time of day and the seasons of the year, by the movement of the stars and the sun and the moon, by the balance of light and darkness. We learned how the sun and the moon and the stars changed over time, where and when they rise and set, how high they moved in the sky, how long they showed themselves to aid us in planning migration and planting and reaping and preparation for changes in the weather for survival. Many ancient buildings and worship sites, like Stonehenge, were designed and situated to be aligned to the rising or setting of the sun on a specific day, often the day of the winter solstice. But we also wove stories and myths and songs, making meaning of things we didn't understand. Many cultures told stories of gods or powerful humans traveling to the underworld for a time, removing their influence from the world and causing winter to occur. The Babylonian Ishtar, goddess of warriors and also fertility. The Greek Demeter, goddess of all living things, who traveled to Hades to rescue her daughter, Persephone. The Norse god Balder, god of illumination and light, all traveled to the underworld to rescue one they loved or were sent there by murder and stripped of their light and life-bringing powers for a time. Their return from the underworld brought the return of light and life, the turn of the year at the solstice. Other cultures tell stories of battles between avatars of light and darkness, with a balance of power or victory shifting over the course of the year. In many cultures, this time when the power of darkness was ascendant was deeply connected with goddesses and gestation and women's role and power. The story of Demeter and Persephone is an example of that. And in Nordic and Germanic cultures, the beginning of the Yule season is often honored by the celebration of Mother Night or Modernacht, which is a celebration of mothers, and especially Frigg, the mother of Balder. When the invincible Balder was killed by a spear or a sprig of mistletoe through the trickery of Loki, Frigg traveled to beg the queen of the underworld, Hel, to release her son, who was loved by all of Earth's creatures. Hel says she would be convinced to let Balder return if every being on Midgard, Earth, would actually cry for the loss of the light. The version of this story told at this time of year recounts that at Frigg's entreaty, every living being, birds, bees, beetles, fish, and humans, called out for the return of Balder, and he was returned to life. So the solstice is the time when we celebrate and rejoice that the light is returning, that the days are getting longer, that it will get warmer again, the long, dark nights begin to shorten. But even as we celebrate the return of the light, we know that eventually it will be the turn of the darkness to return on the other side of the wheel of the year. And here, living in the desert, I think sometimes we don't think that the lack of light is a bad thing, because it's lovely here in the darkness, isn't it? It is this balance, the shifting between light and dark, that brings some meaning to our lives, especially in those days before whale oil and candles and then electricity allowed us to banish the darkness from our nights at a whim. Even when it takes away our ability to see, the darkness can bring us time to nurture our spirits, to focus our hearts, to be humble in the face of all we don't control. It can open up space for us to ponder and see ourselves with new perspective. Understanding that light and darkness are balanced with each other, that there is no inherent goodness and holiness in light, just as there is no inherent badness and evil in darkness, can help us see patterns in the world around us. When darkness and night are seen as dangerous, inhumane, threatening, and day and light are seen as pure and holy, humans find it all too easy to transfer those assumptions to people's skin color and character. When darkness and night are seen as connected with women's lives and power, as connected to nurturing and pregnancy and gestation, and then we denounce darkness as evil and terrifying and corrupt, we can come to make misogyny out of our one-sided understanding. We connect women's power and agency to the parts of the world that we deride or feel or battle against, and so we direct that fear and that violence towards women. I can't help but see the ongoing attacks on reproductive justice and women's power and autonomy over their bodies as deeply interwoven with this connection of women to darkness, to fear, and a need to control on the part of those fighting against choice and justice. So many of the holidays we celebrate this time of year, Yule, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and others, even the solstice, are about light arriving and banishing the darkness. Of course they are. Cold and dark can be dangerous, and longer and warmer days make our lives easier to an point, and gave our ancestors better chances to feed and house themselves safely and warmly. But the darkening can be nurturing. It can bring new perspective. The pause of the solstice, as the sun slows down its movement in the sky and begins rising higher and higher, the pause can be a moment for us to reflect on the need of balance in our lives, the need of pausing to remember the restorative power of darkness, its invitation to new perspectives and new wondering. The darkness asks us, writes the blogger known as Druid Garden, to be with only ourselves and our own thoughts. It is this darkness where we can commune with spirit in waking dreams or in sleep, in meditation and in visionary work. It allows us time to sort through things. It gives us space and distance from everything, everything that surrounds us, and allows us rest and quiet. And we pause at this time of year to wonder what might emerge from the dark, from our reflection, our slowing down, our resting in the possibilities of darkness. I was in line at Joann Fabrics over here a couple of weeks ago getting some crafting supplies. The person in front of me in line was taking a long time. We crafters can be very picky about what's on sale. So I had the chance to talk with the people in line behind me. And one of them shared with us that it was her tradition to decorate her holiday tree with butterflies. Not snowmen or angels or tinsel. She said it was because the life cycle of butterflies and caterpillars, their move into the dark messiness of the cocoon and the beauty that blossomed forth from that darkness, that passage, she said, felt to her like something holy to hold up at this time of year when we, too, were moving into darkness. Her story of emergence of beauty from the darkness of the cocoon, something new from what was there before, reminded me of the writing of religious naturalist Ursula Goodenough, whose book, The Sacred Depths of Nature, I think I've shared a bit with you before. In that book and in other places, Goodenough writes about the deep trait of our universe that is emergence. She said, in considering our universe and its features, including life itself, she says, as one moves up the level of scale, one encounters something more from nothing but. Something more from nothing but. Or less euphoniously, she writes, but more accurately, something else from nothing but. Since the point is not that one encounters something greater or something more, but that one encounters something else altogether, growing out of something that was before. Importantly, this something else can in turn then participate in generating a new something else at a different level of organization. That is, today's something else may be tomorrow's nothing but. The now widely adopted term to describe such dynamics, she writes, is emergence. This perspective, emergence, understands that something more can come from nothing but. That inherent in the universe, in all of life, is the possibility that something new will emerge of what already is. For good enough, this affirms her own non-theism in emergence, her conviction that we humans in all life are not the result of a higher order plan determined elsewhere. She writes that we can be understood, we, for her meaning all of life, all of the universe, can be understood to have followed trajectories made possible by planetary and ecological conditions and opportunities. But she says the myths and stories of this season and others are still important. They come to us from thousands of religious traditions conveying timeless hopes and understandings of how best to be good with each other in the world. We need both stories and science to understand and encounter the changes in our world. We can understand the darkness of this season through the lens of astronomy and through the lens of the myths of Persephone and Balder and the stories of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus and the lantern in the restored temple in Jerusalem. Margaret Atwood wrote, "This is the solstice, the still point of the sun, its cusp and midnight, the year's threshold and unlocking, where the past lets go and becomes the future. As the light begins to return to our lives, either from the candles and fires of the season or because the days are lengthening, may we not forget the beauty and promise of the darkness, and that the darkness and the light form one holy circle of balance, wholeness, and possibility. May it be so." My friends, will you rise, please, in body or in spirit as we sing our closing song together, Rising Green.
Thank you. As we wind up our service this morning, we have congregational news. And as I share this news, we want to also share that your worship associate next week is Walter Gendell. If you have any news to share, please email him by Thursday. Thank you. Christmas Eve Vespers with Reverend Ian Riddell, the worship associate Julia Alber-Bernbeck, and the choir begins at 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Please plan to stay after the service and coffee hour next Sunday, December 29th at 11:30, and join the first of what we hope is monthly poetry readings on our labyrinth. Please invite your friends and family to join us. And as a reminder, our Pam, the office administrator, will be out of the office December 24th to the 27th, and also on January 1st. One more announcement is January 12th is a scheduled date of our Women's Night Out or Lunch Bunch. We have no one signed up to host. Oh dear. Anyone willing? If so, please contact Cheryl Eaton. If not, we'll pass on January and look for a host on February. So somebody, volunteer. I've already talked about the name tags, and we are at the extinguishing the chalice. If you'll join me in extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Before I share my closing words, my benediction with you today, I want to say a special thank you to Mel and to the AV folks and to Malcolm, who all scrambled a little bit this morning to adapt to my injury and help bring this service to you in a really beautiful way. So thank you all for your flexibility and care. I want to send us forth today with the words of, I also will say, I will not be doing my regular standing at the door afterwards. So you can come up here and chat to me if you want, or just head off and have coffee and talk to each other, because what a wonderful group of folks you are. I want to close us today with the words of Barbara Brown Taylor from her book, Learning to Walk in the Dark. I have learned things in the dark that I could never have learned in the light, things that have saved my life over and over again, so that there is really only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light. Carrying the possibility and nurturing of the dark along with us into the light of this season, go in peace, my friends, to love and serve the world.